Hey babies, thank you for coming back to Ginger's Journey. I know it's been a while since I've been here, but let's get back on this travel, well, the travels that we're on together. So, a lot's happened. I did meet my goals before my surgery. However, now I have to start some new ones. So let's start with my goals for the week, which are to film 2 more videos for YouTube, 3 videos for my smut pages, which I'll have in the link below. And let's see, I'll also finally work out maybe 2 to 3 times this week and start socializing. Of course, social distancing while I socialize and just make new friends in my city, because that is something I do not have. And that is the perfect segue into this week's topic. And this week's topic is sexuality, specifically my sexuality, which may be different from yours or others. And I'm always very curious to see what questions you have, what your sexualities are, if you're willing to share, your opinions on if you think my sexuality is weird or unusual or just something screwy, because I know for a fact that the way I view myself many people may not agree with, but this is my journey. This is how I see my life and my situation, and I am human. I'm constantly trying to adapt and change. And also with my sexuality, I'm going to be discussing polyamorous topics. So if you have any questions or curiosities about being polyamorous, please send me questions. I'm always willing to answer. And so yeah, that's where we're starting. And so yeah, I hope you liked my little dance in the beginning. I'm going to start doing that to just like bring us in and get us into the mood to learn. And so let's actually start. Okay, so the way I define myself, Dangerous Ginger, the way I define myself is polyamorous, pansexual, queer, or bi. I see myself as all 3. And I'm also in the kink scene, which is something we'll discuss later. So and I'm also non-binary, and this all falls under the category of sexuality for me. And for many people, gender may or may not be a part of your sexual identity. Though for most people, I believe it is. And for me, I consider myself non-binary, gender fluid. I'm still learning about myself in that perspective. And it's been an interesting journey in the last 3 years, to say the least, with my gender identity. And with my pan-queer bisexuality, that's been something I personally struggle with finding a definitive term for how I feel about my sexuality. And let me define those 3 in some very simple terms. Pansexual means you just love everybody so long as they're legal. And with bi, it's, once again, you love everybody, though some people can see it in the binary perspective and some people see it in the gender fluid perspective, but not everybody does. And for the queer, it's generally used as the umbrella term, and not all sections of the LGTBQ community necessarily agree with using queer as an umbrella term. But for me, that's what I use it as, because it just feels right more often than pan or bi to use queer. And one thing with me being queer is I just love everybody so long as you're a consenting adult, so over the age of 18, and yeah, we could have some fun, sexy times. We could date. I'm very open-minded. I am in a polyamorous relationship, and what that means is that I'm very much into having more than one partner, and that's either sexually, dating wise, or strictly platonic. That has some romantic undertones, though I do consider myself gray romantic, which isn't the same as aromantic or aromantic, because I don't necessarily need romance, but I definitely need sex. So there's definitely a difference with, let me explain that a little bit more. With the romantic, you like romantic things, and for everybody they have a different definition for what they consider romantic. And for aromantic, it's you don't necessarily see romance. You don't see that aspect of an intimate relationship necessarily, though your partner may see it. And being on either end of these spectrums, you can still experience intimate connections with people. And with gray romantic, it just means I'm somewhere in the middle of both. I could take or leave romantic gestures and romantic points of views, though there are some things I consider romantic that I'm definitely uncomfortable with, like getting a dozen red roses, or grand gestures make me very uncomfortable, and some people love getting those. I should note, with grand gestures, in my Dom persona, which is something else we'll address at a later time, I love grand gestures. Like, if a submissive wants to give me big gifts, I'm all for it. But if a partner wants to give me big gifts, I question it, if that makes any sense. Or I probably just sound like a weirdo. And I would love to get your feedback, so please leave anything you have to say to me in the comments below, because I know this can be a controversial issue for a lot of people. And in our society, identifying as anything other than cis hetero has been very much demonized by major societies, like our major social strata. Being in the LGTBQA+ community is still not looked on flavorably? Is that a word? I don't think that's a word. Though I like flavors of food. Okay, back to subject. Favorably. I struggle with words. I apologize. I will go into my deficits. Well, no, they're not necessarily deficits. It's part of my chronic health issues, which will be addressed in another video coming up. Another aspect of sexuality is the gender fluid non-binary. For me, it depends on the day of the week, necessarily how I feel about my gender. Sorry, you're seeing cat butt, and he's doing something he's not supposed to. Ignore the cat butt, though I really don't want to. One thing with my gender identity is it's still something I'm learning, and how I see myself. And last year, around this time, is the first time I cut my hair really, really short. And it felt amazing. I felt restraints lifted off of me, and I was able to see myself in a view that I didn't expect. And with that, and what I mean by that is, it was the closest to gender euphoria I've ever had in my life. And that was surprising and honestly kind of scary. Because it's like I didn't realize I had gender dysphoria, but I knew I was struggling with my gender, and it was something I've dealt with but never recognized until 3 years ago, when a couple of my friends came up to me and came out to me as gender fluid. Sorry, that's my cat sneezing, so if you hear anything in the background, that's my cat. And So it made me question, and it made me curious, and I realized they were right. Well, they were right for themselves, but I mean, them coming out to me made me realize, oh, there is a reason why I've never been comfortable in my body. Oh, there is a reason why I struggle with my self-esteem, because I don't feel like I was necessarily brought up in a structure that allowed me to express myself in something other than a female assigned at birth. And I am not out to my parents. Fun fact, I am not out to my parents about my gender fluidity, and sometimes it's even agender feelings that I get. I don't necessarily like being defined by my gender, and it's something I'm still learning about. I recognize I still express physically as a female, or feminine, or femme, and most of the time I dress that way. I definitely look feminine, and it's, how to put this, sorry for giggling, because I have to figure out how I want to tell you this. For me, it's a real struggle because my parents are very, I won't say closed-minded, but they see me a certain way. And I only just came out to my father this year as polyamorous and pansexual, queer, bi, whatever term you want to use for, because at this point in time, I don't know which one I use primarily, though I've been noticing I use queer more often than anything else. I am definitely queer. So I know TikTok has the pirates, but what about queers? What would queer be? Would it be the queers questing demons? Little D&D? I don't know. Put down below what you think queer should be, because we got the pirates, we got the pan. I'm gonna need someone to remind me on TikTok what the pan are for this whole crew and shanties and everything, and the other identities. I know there's one for the lesbians, one for the gays, and I love it. There's so much unity on TikTok that it's amazing, and we need more of that. We need to spread more love. On that note, on that note, what do I want to say? If you're struggling with your identity, that's okay. If you're struggling with your sexuality, you're not sure who or what you are, if you don't even want to define yourself, that's perfectly okay. That's perfectly normal. If you love using labels, then just keep using the labels. I know personally I like having something to anchor my identity in, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And if you think there's something wrong with that, please let me know. I want to hear all your thoughts. But I want to finish this. I know this wasn't super in-depth, but it gave you a basic overview as to who I am through those identities. And if you have any questions for me, if you want to tell me I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. I just want to hear from you. Tell me about your experiences with your sexuality and your identity, your gender identity, or your relationships. The next one, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth about my experience in polyamory. And I may go a little more in depth about my sexuality as well, because there's more, and I might give a more generalized view, more definitions, more things involved with the queerness in our society and my own personal queerness. And sorry I'm all shiny and everything, but I just got out of the bath, and I always use coconut oil to refresh my skin. And let me know if you have any questions, concerns, comments below, and just love yourself, love each other, spread the love, spread joy today. And let me know what your goals are for this week, and I'll see you next week. All right, I love you. Mwah. Bye. And don't forget, you're loved, you're worth it, and don't let them break you down.